Hey everybody, it's Shannon Robnett with the Real Estate Rundown. Today I've got Mike Dawson and Casey Barnwell with me. How you doing, guys?
Doing well. Doing great, thank you.
Mike and Casey have been business partners in a company called Soar First, and their main focus is Airbnbs, and they've got quite a few of these. And instead of trying to tell you guys what I know about them, I'm just going to ask them to tell us, when did Soar First come about? How did you guys get started in this industry?
Well, when Mike and I first met, we actually met in the gym, and Mike was actually a trainer there, and I was looking to get back into shape, and him and I kind of just clicked right off the get-go. We had the same humor, the same approach to life, and everything like that, and we just started working out with each other. And then I was just like, hey, let me hire you on. Let's just train and get you paid while we get to know each other better. And then, from there on out, we became best friends. And during our workouts, we'd always talk about getting into real estate. Man, I've always been interested. Seen it on the TV shows, and it's going all over the internet, and you make some great money in it, and really build that freedom that you want for your life and your family and your close friends. And so we were just like, hey, let's get into this. And fortunately enough, Mike had a property that he was going to sell and everything like that. So we decided, hey, let's just make that our first rehab, our miniature rehab. And this has come in with zero experience, just what you could Google literally and piece together. And from what we could understand, we did the necessary big things that really bring people in: kitchen, master bedroom, stuff like that. Really highlighted the areas that people mostly stay in their home. And so, we did it all ourselves, all the sweat equity, and we were able to turn it over for a good profit to help us literally start and pay for our business, to get everything going from there.
But when you guys start a job, the first thing you got to have is internet, so you can watch the YouTube videos to figure out how to tear out the kitchen, right?
Right. Exactly. I just grab a sledgehammer, and Mike's like, "Put that down," and I was just like, well,
"Wait a minute, that's not what I got it." So then, but what got you? I mean, so you guys did a rehab. Did you turn that into a rental immediately, an Airbnb? I mean, what got you from there to Airbnb?
There's a little bit of backstory in setting that up. So what kind of drove we want to get out of the lifestyle of working for someone else and building their dream for them and get into something where we're building our dream. We actually wound up working together at another job. I got hired on at the company Casey was already working for, and we worked for Casey's dad at the company he just is moving on from. But in the process of working there together, that was kind of where a lot of our relationship continued to grow. And out of that, it was just, that's where the motivation came from to, okay, I don't want to spend the rest of my life giving my time away to someone else for pennies on the dollar. And so really out of that, the opportunity came where my wife and I had a property she had bought that she lived in. I had my own property. She had a property. And then when we got married, we were renting out her property. And then it was from there, we knew we were going to need more capital to really get the business going. And that's kind of where, going into what Casey just explained as far as getting that property flipped, we knew we'd gotten the property for a good deal. And made a very good profit off of it. And then from that, Soar First was born. We got our LLC, did all the background work and getting that up and running. And then really we realized we don't know what we're doing. We need to find people and start surrounding ourselves with people who do. And so, like most people who want to, start a side hustle and get in business, we did some homework on finding some mentorship, finding some education materials that we could use, dive into, and take action on right away. And
who did you guys find on that? Where did you go for that?
I'm sure you're familiar with Dean Graziosi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But we got a hold of some of his materials in the real estate market he was doing a couple years ago, and started going through his materials. found some of the action plans that they took on that, and just jumped in head first, just started taking action on it. And we kind of went through the gamut of different aspects of real estate. And part of that process was finding what we really liked. And in the end result, and this we'll backtrack the story, but the end result is we found we've become most excited about doing the Airbnb and the nightly rentals. And we'll kind of talk through the process of how we came to that, because we didn't start there. We started with fix and flips, but a lot of it came through who we started connecting with. And that was kind of where our story as Soar First Investments began. Was we did our first flip, used that to launch our business, and then from there we started doing some education, and from the education started executing some of the basic pieces of marketing, things that we could do for cheap or out of the pocket, and start trying to find properties in our market. And that was a trick too, is because this was when Boise hit its next big boom and became one of the fastest growing places in the country. And so it was a challenge for us. We had to dig and work a lot harder than we thought we were going to have to. And that's, that was kind of how we tripped and fell into Robert and Des.
Yeah, Robert and Des, which became, still are great mentors to us, because they've been in the real estate game for 25 plus years. And they took us under their wing, and they saw the potential that we had, and they're just like, hey guys, you can do great stuff with us. And so, we did some joint venturing with them on some of the properties, and that's when we started recognizing the potential of starting the business with nightly rentals, Airbnbs. And after doing a few rehabs, Mike and I were just like, crap, we're not having as much fun as we'd want, because a lot of it we were still doing a lot of the work ourselves,
right?
And with alongside the people the subs that we hired on to do, and we really wanted to make an automated business for us to be able to spend more time with our families, because that was our ultimate goal from the beginning. And we saw the people around us in our community and then in the world, that how much people are actually making doing nightly rentals and Airbnbs. And we were just like, we got to get into this. Let's see what's up. I'm like, let's get into it. And so we started, investigating, and found the right people to talk to start helping us out. And, because there's multiple approaches to Airbnb on who you're serving, because that's in the end that's what it is. Who are you serving? What's your clientele?
Right. Yeah, and I've seen that, and the smart thing is here, guys, you guys saw, you saw a niche and you went after it, but you didn't try and create the niche. You didn't try and create Airbnb. You looked at it and said, okay, nightly rentals, they make us more money. But what do we do there? And I've looked at that. I have several Airbnb rentals in Puerto Rico, which is actually my full-time residence. But what I look at is the same thing, because what you have for a clientele in Puerto Rico is very different than the clientele you would have in Boise, and maybe a different clientele for even somewhere like San Francisco or Denver or Houston. So you guys, I appreciate the fact that you guys jumped in, because, and you made a statement there that, it started taking a lot more work, right? And most people find that the people that are financially independent, the people that have created the kind of income that isn't driven by a boss or isn't driven by a job, are not always smarter. They just work harder. And it sounds like you guys had that same experience. You went from trading time for dollars, to working for yourself and being in control of your time, and then taking that to the next step, which was leveraging that time to make sure that you guys were getting out of your life what you wanted out of your life. So, and man, that's such a story of America. That's such of the value of this republic that we get to enjoy, is that you guys can trade time for money if you want. There's a lot of security in that. Getting insecure, getting uncomfortable, doing the side hustle that becomes the main hustle is always a lot more work. Now, when you guys were doing this, were you guys trying to dig up your own deals? Were you working with wholesalers? When you guys started doing fix and flips, were you trying to be your own real estate agent? I mean, where were you guys at in that initial process?
We didn't want to do the wholesaler route because here in Idaho, they're just way too expensive. There's no profit there. And so we've always break it down to the basics. How can you get a property from, multiple approaches? And of course, we did door knocking, where you go find the neighborhood that everybody wants to be in and finding the most rundown place in there and seeing who lives there and talking to them, not only saying, not directly saying to them, hey, I want to buy your house, but asking them, hey, do you know anybody in the neighborhood that's selling their property? And just by giving them, hey, we're a local real estate team here. We're not realtors, so we're a lot cheaper. There's no backer, no hidden costs or anything like that. And being able to educate them, not directly say, hey, I'm going to buy your house, but putting in their head, hey, these guys are pretty cool. They're straightforward. I've been thinking about my home. And then usually a day or two later, they're giving you a call saying, hey, I've actually been selling my house. And that's, one of the hardest, more old school approaches. And, there's always some funny stories that come along with that. And,
getting the cops called on you.
Yeah, getting the cops called on you is one of them.
Do tell. I was really not jail, but tell me about the story with the cops. I got to hear that.
Twice actually. First time, yeah, I was in downtown Boise near Garden City, and I was doing my door knocking, and this cop comes.
And this is a higher end area.
This is higher
end real estate. These properties are not these. This is where the money is in our market.
Yeah, where you buy the cheap ones for $300,000 and sell for $500,000. And so I'm going there. I'm dressed up nice. I'm not looking like a guy with a hood on. Saying peeking through windows and everything like that. And I got my business folder with me and everything. And I'm walking, and this cop comes rolling up behind me. And of course I recognize him, I wave and everything like that. And he stops and he's like, hey, can I talk to you for a second? And I turn around, I'm like, yeah, what's up? He's like, hey, we've been getting, we got a call in and saying that there's this guy walking around the neighborhood looking through windows and knocking on people's door and talking to them. And I was like, well, you found me.
You're not really good at the sneaky thing, huh?
No, I'm like, so I was just like, well, the house I was looking at, it was literally abandoned there. So, I left a note on there. You can go look for yourself. And the guy's like, well, we've been recently getting phone calls in about, people breaking into houses and everything like that. And then I backtrack. I was like, wait. I'm like, was it an older lady that called you that told you that, a guy in a blue shirt walking around and everything like that? And they're like, yeah, we got reports from an older lady. I was like, she was the one coming out asking me what I was doing. And so I was like, I better get away from this area because she seems like a person that would call the cops.
Yeah.
And we got to run your information and everything like that. And I was just like, yeah, no problem and everything like that. I'm like, well, before we go any further, I'm like, we do live in Idaho. I was just like, I am carrying. And he was just like, oh, okay, and everything like that. And so by that time, 2 more patrol vehicles come rolling up, and they're like, we got to detain you for a bit. And I was just like, oh, here we go. I'm like, can we use the bigger handcuffs? I'm like, I'm a bigger guy. My arm doesn't reach back all the way. And they're like, this is not your first time being detained, huh? I was like, no.
That's funny. So
20 minutes
always be
later,
nice to the little old ladies when you're knocking the hood is kind of what you're saying. Huh?
Right.
Extra nice.
Extra nice. I'm like, what
Bring cookies if you can.
Man, I'm like, these days, I'm like, people are more scared now, people walking around, because the same thing happened the second time I went out and cops were called. They're just like, yeah, they're just people just being scared about it. So, people that are thinking about door knocking right now,
I want to wait.
Might want to wait.
Yeah, especially in the environment
right now.
So,
yeah,
guys, let's talk about the environment that we're in. So you guys have been involved with fix and flips and Airbnb. How long?
Airbnb more recently. Fix and flips we've been doing for probably about a year and a half. We've probably done 3 of them.
Yeah, we've done.
And so you guys are getting into the Airbnb market. How's that been?
A lot of people don't understand right off the get-go that Airbnb and nightly rentals is a data game. Like you really got to take in the information and understand what the community in the area that you're serving in is doing for you to best approach it. And so so basically understanding where you're going to be at is basically
We'll cut this part out. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, thanks.
A big part of it, like you said, is it's sort of a numbers game, like with any part of business. And it comes down to just doing a little research on your market. And, the biggest thing, like we kind of stated off the get-go, is identifying who you want to serve. And I think for us, as we started getting into this, as we started doing our homework on it, that became a major point of interest of who do you want to serve and why do you want to serve these people? And as we started getting into studying the Airbnb industry and the whole shared industry, because like Uber was born out of that, all the different shared markets that have come from the shared economy. And it's an amazing concept. It's something I never would have thought of, and it's been around a lot longer than the popularity of Airbnb.
But during that time, I'm like, this had nothing to do with CVD-19. So yeah, this was when everything was still booming and people weren't, especially, for me, I'm a millennial, don't like to stay around in an area for too long. So being able to move out and about and, business travelers as well, they want everything automated. They want everything quick. And so we're basically, how can we set up this system that can be quick, where once they come in, because, what's the ultimate thing? People are lazy. So setting up a fast system for them to where it's just boom, oh, I can instantly book this, or oh, I can set it up for this amount of time in just 2 or 3 clicks on a computer or some button pressing on their phone, where everything is done right then and there, where there's links to saying, hey, you need an Uber for this, or hey, here's a local store that can deliver to you. Mm-hmm. Being able to set that for them is going to attract more of those people. Right. And so that those systems that were going on before CVD-19 came in was basically a huge part of our approach to nightly rentals. So basically, it was just a lot of.
I was dealing with VRBO back 10 years ago. I mean, it was a platform and it was more along the lines of a catalog where once you figured out what you wanted, you could look at their calendar and then you could send them a request and then they could look at who you were and do a profile search and then get back with you. And then we had, that whole industry went through the whole who's paying for the insurance and what about this and what about damage? Yeah. So VRBO kind of paved the way for what Airbnb is. It's kind of like the Uber and the Lyft, right? Everybody hears about Uber, but Lyft is financially doing quite a bit better, right? I mean, being first doesn't always mean that you're the best. It just means that you're first and you're gonna hit the speed bumps and you're gonna do these things and you're gonna have these kind of trials and tribulations. And the guy that's coming along second can go, oh yeah, don't do that and don't do that. Yep. Mm-hmm. So you guys have been able to take advantage of that and make it an easy solution. Have you guys seen any change in your rental market, your rental rates as we're running into this virus?
Yeah, we're watching them drop fairly steadily, not in huge numbers, not large amounts dropping, but consistently dropping. We're seeing properties that were going fast off the market, staying stuck longer because people have frozen. They stood still and are not moving their money, become, pushing things out. I want to wait till this blows over. I want to wait till the economy stabilizes a little bit.
And is that on your fix and flip? Is that on your purchase game or is that on your Airbnb game?
That's on both, honestly. the one thing that maybe a lot of people outside the Boise market don't know is because of the rate of growth out here, like building and construction is still considered essential work, so all those employees are still allowed to go to work. A lot of everything else is shut down. And so because of the travel restrictions too, that's been the other bump we've run into is a lot of our clientele were coming in from out of state and travel and booking through those means. And so one of our evolutions is determining if and how we want to adjust some of our marketing to people who are working in battling the coronavirus, or people who are just looking for an escape experience of what our community can offer. And so those are some of the things we've been talking about lately, evolving it, because we literally were just about to step into a scaling point as the whole coronavirus thing kind of set in the last 3 weeks. And so we were getting structures for funding and everything in place. And now we're watching some of our peers in the industry saying, we're closing up shop. Our business is plummeted because of this. And so, I mean, we feel like we caught a blessing in disguise of just the timing of what we were about to jump into. Instead of pouring all that money into something that's going to barely break even for the next, I don't know, maybe 6, 8, 12 weeks. We got an opportunity to basically stop right before we jumped off the ledge and wait for things to reshuffle a little bit.
We literally had our list set up to start calling the people that we wanted to call to start setting up more units. And
so the reality is, that, I mean, I was watching, there's a new video out on YouTube right now with Robert Kiyosaki that I watched this morning. And he takes it a little bit further than Warren Buffett does with his statement, you're buying when there's blood in the streets. But, you guys see this temporary halt with the economy that we've had over the last 7 years. We've seen growth. So we're going to see a pause. Whether we see a decline is another thing. But now is a time to restructure, reshuffle your business, figure some things out, put some more systems in place, pause, take a breath. What are you guys seeing that your business needs that you didn't have time to do a year ago?
One of the biggest things is just the whole automation process, because a lot of what we've been doing to this point, we're the ones taking the phone calls and the texts at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, because we knew we wanted to go to the automation, but we hadn't found what we were looking for yet. And so we're just starting to come across that stuff now and doing our homework on it. But I think for us, over the course of the last year, even 6 months, that's the biggest piece, is how much can we profit from this, and how much are we willing to pay to not have to be the ones handling all the little logistics things. How much of that can we hand off? Because that's going to really determine how much quickly we can grow the business in other markets.
Yeah, less time you're answering questions on the cleaners and booking, the more time you have scaling.
Well, and that's kind of, back to Robert Kiyosaki. He said that in school, in this interview, it was really great. He said, I have a team, and in school that was called cheating. But here,
I like his mentality on that.
You've got a team.
Yep.
You realize that somebody is willing to clean the place for $35 an hour, and somebody's willing to do this for $25 an hour, and yet you can take your game to another level and say, my time is worth $75 an hour, because when I have that time, I can make these kinds of decisions and do these things going forward. And a lot of that has to do with understanding and identifying and creating that powerful team. And so it's funny, because I've talked to several people this last week who are in this crisis, this pandemic, this virus, whatever you want to call it. Let's not get into semantics here, but the world has changed in the last month, and there's those that are lamenting the change and trying to figure out what the government's going to do for them, or how society is going to take care of them. And there's those that have taken the power back and said, I'm going to create my future as I see fit. I'm going to strengthen my position in where I was going originally. I'm going to do these things that I was going to do anyway, and I'm going to reinvest more in myself. And that's one thing that I think a lot of people that are sitting here in this problem in this time period and going, oh my God, the world is coming apart. they're having that trouble seeing where they can invest in themselves to make themselves better. Sounds like you guys already have a handle on that, not only investing in yourself with the mentorship programs that you've been dealing with, but investing in your business to make it better so that your team can handle some of the C and D and E tasks while you guys are handling
Yep.
the A and B items that are out there clubbing it and dragging it home.
Yep.
A lot of people don't understand. I'm like, Mike and I, since we started business, we haven't collected one penny out of it. I'm like, everything's been reinvested back into the business. I'm like, we see the value of investing into our business first, of paying us instead of paying ourselves first.
At this point.
Soon enough, yes, we'd like to make some money, but
well, I noticed you guys are doing the same hairdo thing, so that's probably saving you a few bucks, right?
Yeah,
it is. My barber's so cheap.
Yeah, I'm like, I actually had a wig, but it's been windy over here, so I lost it.
I'm not far behind you there, guys, but I mean, and that's so important, that you guys are seeing the value of it, right? You're seeing how to scale your business, how to take the next step instead of stepping out of simple, I work for somebody, to now I'm self-employed, but I'm eating all my profits. And so I don't have anything to reinvest. I can't grow. I can't make my business bigger. It really hampers a lot of things. So when you guys look at this, I mean, you guys have been doing this now for a couple of years. Did you think 2 years ago when you walked out of your job and told your dad, I know your dad, so you told your dad very respectfully, sir, I'm going to turn in my 2 weeks notice now. I'll see you later. You guys would be as far along as you are.
No, I mean, we talk about it regularly because I think one of the things that we've learned on what we've done with business is the importance of having a good partner, the right partner. Because I've heard both sides of that. People like, I just like doing things on my own, and more power to those people who are independent, sole proprietors, can do it all on their own. But I think one of the things I've really had as a benefit with Casey is, if I'm dragging behind on something, he's there to pick me up. If he's dragging behind or struggling with something, I'm there to pick him up. And we really feed off of each other's energy. And I really, that's helped propel us into that launching point to where we are today, is just being there for each other, picking each other up, pushing each other, not letting each other just quit.
And that's an important thing. I've been involved in partnerships, and I've partnered with family, which is always the most difficult because you still want to do, the holidays, and you still want to be friends, and you still want to get along. And I've done partnerships with other people, and finding that like-mindedness. I mean, so do you guys find that you guys have the same skill set, or do you guys bring different things to the table? I mean, how do you guys sort that out?
Very different.
Yeah, it's very different. Like one of the like the funny part is I'm always the one running into the dark room without a flashlight, and Mike is usually right behind me with the flashlight saying, hey, you should bring this in, or just flipping the light switch on. I've always been the
head first,
let's just go. I'm sure the turbulence will end at some point.
So you're the one that they need the safety net for, and Mike is that safety net.
Mike is a huge safety net for me.
Slowing it down, thinking it through. Not that, there's so much to be said about that. I've watched a lot of people get analysis paralysis. They've been sitting on the sidelines waiting for the market to crash since 2013, 2014.
Right.
They're still waiting for that decrease when they could have been making money all the time. And the reality is, in real estate, you make money going up, you make money coming down. It's just about being positioned to take advantage of opportunities. And, but I love what you guys have got going there, where you've got, the yin and the yang, where you guys go, hey, that's a great idea. Hold on. Let's think this through. Let's get the next steps going so that we can make this successful. And yet you've got somebody going, charge, right? So that's a great partnership. What else do you guys split in that partnership as far as being opposites?
He's taller.
Yeah, but Casey, I know your parents. That's most people. So I'm right there with you. I mean, I'm taller sitting down than I am standing up. So, what do you guys see as your competitive edge against the peers, the people that you're around, that you're working with?
And, to sum it up, to the drive to want to be better, the drive to want to say, hey, we're grateful for your success. We want to help you in any way we can to accelerate your success. We still want to be better, and we're going to find a way to do that.
Yeah.
We're not going to cut you down. We're always going to build you up. We're going to help you. We'll be there for you, but we're going to find a way to do it better.
Don't give away all the secrets, but being able to still be the shark in the tank.
Right. Well, and there's a lot of value in that, giving back. I mean, being a mentor like you were mentored, right? I mean, you guys got a gift from your guys that invested in you for not a ton of gain, but more for the value of being able to bring the next generation along. And that's one of the things that I think a lot of businesses don't do well, or industries, I guess I should say, they don't do well. And so there becomes a culture in there that isn't educated as to how the business was really done, and when that doesn't happen, then you wind up with something that's rotten inside, because that industry is falling apart because there's not a normal way.
No culture.
Yeah, exactly. And
there's not a system in place.
That's a good point. That's the wonderful thing too about real estate, though, is you can be as creative as you want. You can be as vanilla as you want. You can make all kinds of changes. You can do really great stuff. You can do really simple stuff. But as long as it's what you want to do and you've got a good handle on how to take it from A to D or E or Q, whichever number is your bus stop, as long as you guys have that ironed out, you're doing great. Now, what do you guys do? I mean, what do you guys do when you're faced with the difficulties that you're faced with now, with occupancies changing, with demand changing on a short-term basis? What's your plan to get through this?
Well, it all starts with analyzing the market, see what's going on, and see what your market is doing in your area, where your units are at, and start testing things, seeing what's going on system-wise. Because people, for a little example, people that are 5-star, super host and everything like that. If you look at it, they're no longer on the front page. It's all about the people right now that are changing their prices, cutting their prices down, that are showing up on the first and second page. So they're getting that visual, they're getting that response, they're getting those bookings simply because they're testing things. And that's what Mike and I have been doing. We just started testing things out. What brings us back to the page? Because we know like some of our units are brand new and everything like that. We're not at super host status yet of those units, but with us testing and seeing those price changes and everything like that, that brings us all the way to the front page, and it gets more views, more response, and better data, and it pushes, Airbnb, HomeAway, and Furnish, some of the other platforms. They want to push you forward because guess what? They're going to be making money off you.
You're making them money.
They're making them money.
And
so
that's so funny, because you guys are, I mean, what I hear you saying is that it's understanding the analytics about a real estate product that has little or nothing to do with actual use of the unit. Some of these guys have had a lot more rentals in that property than you have had in yours, but they're falling behind because they're not innovating. They're not changing the price. They're not offering the deal.
They're not evolving.
They're brought up to the front, because all that Airbnb is a platform for you to make them money on. You're making money, and if you're willing to play let's make a deal and get a guy in there, they're making money, and they're advertising the people that are changing that price, that are being proactive. So that's really the thing there, because just like Google, nobody goes to the third page of Google. You research, you pick different parameters. If you're not on the first page of Google, you're not anything, right? So
here's another little bit of insight right there. I'm like, 90% of the users on Airbnb and all other platforms are mobile users. So if you're not setting up your listing for mobile easy use,
Not desktop.
not desktop, but mobile use. I'm like, you're behind the game. I won't be seeing your unit anytime soon. You're going to be bye-bye. So.
Well, I'm sitting here thinking about my rentals in Puerto Rico, and I probably need to change that. You know, because I'm not set up for mobile, you know, and what I have is I have people that like a little longer term stay. There's an optometry school in Puerto Rico that they like to send their students to me. I've got a place on the beach, and so they're always there, and they're you know, but they're doing it from the school. So now taking that tidbit and bringing that back and making it mobile compatible so that it's easy to use is definitely the right way to do it. What is it that you're doing to enhance that and take that from a desktop experience to a mobile experience? Is that just clicking it on Airbnb, or is there something else I got to do?
I mean, if you look at, like, if you pull up on your desktop and then you pull it up next, you know, let's say if you're looking at the same unit on your mobile unit and your desktop, and you can see how many characters you can view on your desktop compared to your phone, and realize this is all people are seeing on their phone. How can I maximize this? How can I change it from just blending with everyone else to, hey, that one stands out to me?
Because what's 90% of what human beings want? We're visual and emotional intake on how we do things. So if it you know, that first picture we see is not visually pleasing to what we are trying, you know, wherever the unit's at, to paint that picture for that story. So once they start thumbing through, because they don't, for the picture wise, they don't go past like what? Picture 4,
Yeah,
5.
picture 4 or
So
5.
if you capture it in just those 3 to 4 pictures and paint that short little story, but having the headliners of, you know, the great stuff that is in that area with, you know, some emojis and everything like that, you're really gonna tie in that emotional tie where they're gonna, once they check out a few other ones, they're gonna remember that emotional tie, saying, oh, I remember them talking about this, or, you know, I saw this cute furniture, or, you know, this piece of art in there, or I see, you basically want to paint that picture where they see themselves there and doing what they want to do in that area. And so
Right.
analyzing that and playing.
So you guys, you guys are just grassroots in this stuff, or are you reading up on this?
We have a team that we're doing analytics with, and these are some of the things that we pulled in on this. You know, one of the things that we've learned is we're not the smartest people. And so we have no problem reaching out and inquiring about these things, getting information. If we find someone who's having more success, or who said, hey, you know, over the last 6 months, I've tested this, and this. Here's the results I've gotten. We'll pay for that information, because that's going to save us thousands of dollars and give us thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars over the long term. So, I mean, that was one of the grassroots parts we learned, is that we don't know it all, and we know we don't know it all. So one of our initial goals as we were developing our business was figuring out, how can we get from the bottom of the barrel up to where people who are making money, how can we get in those circles of people and start building those relationships, start drawing from those people, start learning from those people. And so that was probably the first piece of the structure of our business, not going and building the business, going and learning how to build the business. Because honestly, the idea was great. We had no idea what we were doing, and so we needed to learn. And that's really been the first year and a half of our business. Is we've poured thousands of dollars into education.
Right. And you know, that's the thing that you'll find with most successful entrepreneurs is being realistic, right? You don't ever want to be the smartest person in the room. If you are, you're not going to grow. And if you're constantly not being invited to a table to look at something different, to come up with something different, to do something better, to look at it from another perspective, then you're going to be the way of the dinosaur before you know it, especially as fast as technology and trends are changing now. So you guys had so much of this right before you even had a business model. And looking back at hearing your story, I mean, you guys knew to invest in you. You knew that you had to pour your profits back into your business instead of buying Ferraris and ski boats, you know, but you guys had the basics down. And then from there, you've been able to experiment down this road, come up with a solution that works, and then take it in a direction that is allowing you to beat the people that are super hosts that have been there longer than you, that, that should, quote unquote, they've been in the business longer. They're supposed to know more. That's one of the funny things that I'm finding on this show is that the industry interrupters aren't the ones that know the business the best. They're the ones that look at it and say, I wonder if I could do business this way. I wonder if I could do business that way. Because the funny thing is, Uber is a household name in less than 10 years. Facebook has become something that everybody relies on. In fact, is on its way out, according to most, in a period of 10 or 18 years, and we're on to what's next. Everybody communicates in a completely different way, and taking the real estate game into those platforms is exactly what you guys have figured out how to do on your particular brand that's bringing you success. Guys, that is going to put you miles and miles ahead of everybody, because you're not looking at the asset that you're peddling. You're looking at the information about the asset that you're peddling.
Yes.
And that, guys, is phenomenal. That puts you so far ahead of everybody else as far as where you're taking your business and what it's going to return to you. That's amazing, guys. And listeners, if you didn't get anything out of this podcast, take this away, that it's not the asset that makes you the money. It's the information about that asset that makes you the money. Whether that be Airbnb, whether that be, right now with COVID, everybody is loving Grubhub. Grubhub just has the information about where a guy with a car is, and the other piece of information about where a guy that's hungry is, and a third piece of information about where the food is that guy wants, that the guy with the car can go get, and everybody makes money. You guys are taking that approach with real estate. That is genius, guys. That is really, really good stuff. So, guys, I want to ask you one more question, and it might be different for both of you, but why? What is your why that powers you in this business?
Okay. For me, it's two things primarily, and this is something I've had a lot of opportunity and time to really think about and delve into, and it's because it's the two things I'm most passionate about. Honestly, as I pursued my passions earlier in life, business was never a part of going after those passions. But one is my family. I have 3 teenage daughters. One of them just graduated high school last year, and has in mind things she wants to go do. But I think one of my biggest things, and I learned this from Robert Kiyosaki and Dean Graziosi, who are very critical on the archaic school system that our kids are educated in these days, if you want to call it education. And that's a huge frustration of mine. And growing up when my kids were younger, I didn't have the opportunity to give them a different kind of education that would have cost more money, because I didn't know what I didn't know. And so I know they're kind of coming to the end of their kids' school life, education, career, whatever. But the opportunity to have them work with their dad in a business that's constantly evolving, that is something they are excited about, something they think is cool because of the opportunities it would afford them. I want to be able to create something that not only I can do with my kids. They can operate their pieces of the business as they would get trained into it from anywhere they're at in the world, and allow themselves the financial opportunity to pursue the things they want to do with their life.
Right.
And so, it's sort of a twofold thing with them. Of one, giving them the opportunity to learn how to do business, which is what you won't learn in school. And then, not just how to learn business, but while you're operating a business, how to learn business, and really it's the biggest thing is the commerce of relationship. And that's something I've really focused on in the last year, how I communicate with people. What words do I say? How does my tone sound? Even when I'm texting, what words am I adding into it to over exemplify, this is what I'm trying to communicate to you. And and just the aspect of using all the different tools afforded to us now that I didn't have when I was their age, and teaching them how to use them, giving them opportunities, fueling them with this could be you. You could be doing this by the time you're 25 years old, or, just feeding that idea. And then, when I'm ready to step out of it on a bigger level, being able to hand something off to my daughters who I know at that point would be responsible to handle and run and operate a business. And then for me, the other part of it too is one thing I'm very passionate about. I've grown up in the church, so my faith is very, very important to me. And so one of the things I really want to draw from is I've like I said, I've grown up in the church. I want to create a church environment that's different, where people who feel like church can never be my thing, those are people I'm hungry to reach. And one of the things that's always hindered me from going in that direction, apart from a lot of people saying you'll never make it, you'll never do it, was just how can I get away from giving all my hours in a week to my job just to provide for my family, to where now the money's there and I can pursue this passion. And money doesn't have to be the issue that stops it from moving forward. Money doesn't have to be the issue why this person can't be helped. And so that was my other passion of money's a tool to get to the things that motivate, that fuel, that passion me, and helping and reaching other people is probably that biggest passion.
That's awesome, Mike. What about you, Casey?
All right. Mine are very simple. One is my freedom. I've always hated working for someone else.
Especially when it was your dad, right?
I had to take his shit all my life. No, my father is such a great mentor. No, my freedom. I'm like, because I love to be able to do whatever the hell I want when I want. Right. And when someone says, "Hey, you got to be here to do this, this, and this," I hate it because it's not my choice to go do it. And then the second thing is, being able to build the future for my family, so they don't have to look back and say, "Well, mom and dad never had the means to be able to help me get to wherever I want to be at in my life." And I didn't have that growing up. My family, my parents were awesome. They took well care of me and gave me every opportunity I could to get where I want. And so I want my kids to know and have that opportunity, so they look at something and they see it and they just go after it, regardless of what's in their way, because that's how I've always approached life, and I want them to approach life the same way. So being able to instill that into them and giving them the fuel to not necessarily say, "Hey, I'm just going to throw money at you," but earning it, building that grit and that value of what they're doing to pursue what they love. And so that's
awesome. That's awesome, guys. Well, so if people want to find you, they can reach out, KCK Barnwell on Instagram. You guys have got the Soar First Innovations that has now become Soar First Realty. What?
No, it was a Soar First Investments, but now it's Soar First Innovations.
Okay, so they can find you there, guys. You'll see that when this comes up. You'll see it attached to the podcast. Guys, I really want to thank you for your time. You've given me so much to think about, so much to contemplate. I love how you're innovating in a space that didn't even exist a couple of years ago. The Uber and the Airbnbs didn't exist. Yeah. But now you guys are already reinventing how that even happens. And guys, more power to you. Thanks so much for being on the show. This is Shannon Robnett with the Real Estate Rundown. Thanks again, guys.